Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, a psycho Karen manager pepper sprays what she believes is a guilty thief. However, this person is actually the owner of the business she is working for. Here is what happens when you pepper spray your boss. And the first one starts like this. One thing about being the owner of my own company is that I don't need to usually be at the physical location. It's not that I'm lazy, I just have severe social anxiety, and being an owner gave me the ability to have a nice job without my mental illness getting too much in the way. When I do need to go down in person, I'm able to and have a great connection with a bunch of my managers and staff. The ones that never met me in person usually have spoken to me before, and I have a clear picture of everything happening. The day of this story, I had to go down in person because there was a serious system issue and the repair people could only deal with me directly due to contract policy or something. Not too much of a problem as I went down and managed to give them what they needed to work the system. I figured while I was there to just check on a couple other things and then I could go back to the comfort of a computer screen in my house. I was looking at the products on the shelves as I went from point A to point B because then I don't need to look at people. I did notice that in the back was a product that was part of a recalled batch and should not have been there. I picked it up, put it in my coat and continued walking towards the back office. That was when I met a manager that I had spoken to but never seen in person. I'm gonna call her Karen. Karen, stop right there, thief! I saw what you put in your coat. Actually I was just, see, it was recalled and it's hard for me to get words out when I'm being confronted in this kind of aggressive manner. It just spikes my anxiety to a boiling point. She must have thought that I was stealing it, and while I wanted to avoid theft at the store, she was going against protocol yelling like that. She was also going against policy and the law with what she did next. She pulled out a pepper spray and unloaded it right into my face. I went to the ground and was screaming while rubbing my eyes. Of course, this got more workers' attention and I was given water and even milk to try and flush out my eyes. My adrenaline was pumping, and when that happens, I get a rare moment when I can get angry and actually speak despite my surroundings. Me, what the hell did you do that for? You cannot just pepper spray people in the face. Karen, I can if they are stealing from the store. Me, no you can't, it's not in the store policy. Karen, how the hell would you know the policy? Me, because I wrote it. I own the damn store. Karen, that's a lie. I've spoken to the owner before. He is a stupid shut-in that cannot even go outside. Other manager, Karen, that really is the owner you just pepper sprayed. Karen, well, he looked like he was trying to steal something and I stopped it. Other manager to me, I called the police. Let me get you into the office and stay away from everybody. Just a side note, this manager has been my best friend since like grad school and he understands my issues more than anybody else. With him, I'm comfortable and he is really just all around amazing. The police arrived and came into the office to question me. At this point, I'm crying, and it's not only because of the pepper spray, I'm just totally overwhelmed and want to be able to just go home and lie down. I tell them what happened and I cannot stop repeating that I didn't tell the manager to carry pepper spray or use them on customers. I was scared the police would blame me for some reason for her actions. Instead, she was the one getting in trouble because in this state weapons are heavily regulated. And yeah, I said weapons because pepper spray is on that list here. Not only are you not allowed to use it, but you're not even supposed to buy it. Stores here don't carry it, so that means she got it from online or another state. She was also being charged separately for assaulting me and they were going to take her away. I made the mistake of walking out of the office too soon because she hadn't left yet and saw me. She started yelling again just on sight. Karen, maybe if you were not such a mental case, this wouldn't have happened. I tried to talk to him like a normal person, but he couldn't do it. You cannot own a store if you don't know how to open your mouth and speak. You can be sure I'm gonna sue your entire company and make sure you go broke. Then you won't even have a house to sit and hide in. I shrunk back into my office but was still hearing her yells through it, just waiting until the cops could get her out of my store. It didn't help that the incident had scared some customers away. I really didn't understand this shift in attitude because I had spoken to her on the phone several times even before her promotion. She was always nice to me, but I guess behind my back and in the store she was totally different. Later, after I recovered a little bit, I went to the police station and pressed charges against her. She definitely shouldn't get away with what she had done. You don't act like this in my store and walk away just scot-free. All I knew was she was a Karen with me and the police that day. I got notified a couple of weeks later that she did file a lawsuit against me and the company for wrongful termination and discrimination. Considering I had a police report to back me up, I was not worried about any court of law agreeing with her. She was making claims that I wanted her to be unsafe when leaving work at night, which is why she had the pepper spray. Also, that since she wasn't white, her getting fired was discrimination. Also, calling the cops and having her arrested caused mental damage that she wanted money for. In total, she wanted like a full year of pay and benefits for being fired. I wrote back to her lawyer with a police report and said if they wanted to sue me, then good luck to them. I also had a medical report because of the pepper spray. After the incident, my friend convinced me to go see a doctor and make sure my eyes would be okay. I never did hear back from him or anything else about that lawsuit, so I assume somebody told her she would never win. The one thing I hated the most was needing to go and tell my story to the court, since apparently the store footage was not strong enough of its own. That was possibly an even harder day for me than the actual day of events taking place. Luckily, I did not need to talk for a long time and was allowed to be outside of the room after that until the entire thing was over. I did not get to hear Karen speak, but I found out from somebody else that all she did was insult me and claim she needed to protect herself. Neither of which were a valid excuse, and she was given a pretty harsh sentence. This was all pre-pandemic, so I don't actually remember how long she ended up serving in prison, but I do know that she was put behind bars. Also, my employees knew that if she was to ever come back to the store to call the police for trespassing, since she is banned for life. And the next one is titled Amazing Revenge. And by the way, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much. My grandparents built and then lived in the same home since the early 70s. It has 5 acres and was a small-scale farm for their family growing up. They both passed away within a month of each other several months ago. Their kids, my parents, aunts and uncles, did not need the home, and none of their kids, my siblings, cousins nor I, could afford it. It was in a trust, so all siblings needed to agree to make a price. Most just wanted it to be sold quickly so they could move on with their lives. They spent a couple of months cleaning the property and house up, repairing anything minor, and then put it on the market. Comparables estimated the property over $850K, but it did need more work. Roof replaced and some cosmetic work on the foundation. The wiring was updated back in the early 2Ks. There were a couple of people showing interest, but no serious offers for a couple of months. So we dropped the price down to around $830K, since there was little work to be done. Enter the most scuzzy realtor and buyer. He wanted it, but his wife really wanted it. They had put their house, in a more urban setting with a small fraction of an acre, on the market and were under contract and basically guaranteed the same of their house for an obscene amount of money. According to my father, I forgot to ask how much their realtor found out it sold for. They negotiated down to $740K, and all of the siblings, since the property was in a trust account, accepted. Sad to see it go to someone outside the family, but what do? Nobody could afford it or needed that much property. He represented himself as his realtor, which would mean he gets a percentage of the final price back at the end of it all. I understand it's not technically illegal in our state, but it's kind of BS in my opinion. Then he started asking for reduced prices for many things like the cost of taking the outbuildings down, a horse corral, horse tack shed, greenhouse and disconnected garage that was set up as a workshop. He said they were all a hazard and he shouldn't have to pay for them coming down. And by the way, they passed building codes, just didn't look perfect cosmetically on the outside, just one example of many. But then again, we just wanted to move on with our lives, but after we would accept an offer, he would then ask for more and drive the cost lower. Eventually got it down nearly below $600K. He had about $3K tied up in escrow to purchase it, and his deadline for closing on the house or losing that money was approaching. He kept asking for more though, because he kept negotiating. He passed his deadline to get his money back. Asked for $580K. Then my father snapped, and I've never seen him snap before. I've never seen him get petty, but I'm glad he did. He called a nephew who has horses, but wanted more property for adequate training and riding space. Couldn't afford what it was actually worth, so he had passed on it before. My father asked if they would qualify for the last accepted price, just over $600K, and they did. All the sublime agreed, so they declined the realtor dude's offer and said, never mind, we won't sell to you. Through their realtor, of course. So the jerk loses his $3K, doesn't get the house, and doesn't have a home at all. He apparently really thought he would get my grandpa's house, so his house was closed on, and he would have to move out very soon. To say he was pissed is an understatement. Our poor realtor had to be the gatekeeper, but she at least took satisfaction in pointing out to him that it was his own fault that he didn't get the house. We gotta wait until the realtor guy signs the termination paperwork, which he is delaying, since that was all he has left to try and stick it to our family, but Grandpa's house is staying in the family once that final date passes, less than a week. My parents may not have sold the house for what it was worth, but it was worth sticking it to that guy. Screw him. Update to the story. The jerk gave up and signed the paperwork yesterday, so my cousin will begin the buying process on Monday. And here, Ripe stars, props to OP and his family, they absolutely did what was right. Anyway, the next one is a coworker am I the a-hole story. So I got a coworker who comes to me for assistance. That's fine, however when I'm on Don't Disturb in Teams, he will send me multiple emails or call me on my phone. It's never anything important, just minor stuff that could wait until my meeting is over. I've talked to him 3 or 4 times telling him that he needs to either wait or if he must email me, it has to stop at 1 and I'll reply to him when I can. So far he has sent emails every few minutes asking for an answer. If I decline his call, he will call right back. He's been talked to by management about this. Last week I sent him a terse email and when he emailed me several times during an important meeting. Stop, I've told you I'll get back to you when I can. If I'm on Don't Disturb, that doesn't mean unless your name is Joe. This is the last time I'll be polite. Finally, he emailed me again on Monday multiple times, so I replied with something along the lines of, "Do you know how to effing read? Have you listened to a damn thing I've said? Don't disturb means leave me alone." We've had polite conversations about this, but I'm gonna be more blunt now. F off. You're actively hindering my work. Note, he's not trying to bait me, he just thinks that he should be able to get an answer right away from a person. He and a few coworkers claim I was an a-hole and out of line for swearing at him and being demeaning. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? And here, Ripe stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Comment number 1 said, everyone sucks here. Your correct course of action should have been to CC his manager on one of the multiple emails you get from him explaining that you have asked him to stop calling you on your phone and sending you multiple emails demanding an answer when you're in meetings. If you cuss out your coworkers, expect a call from HR or a talking to yourself about professional conduct in the workplace. A-hole plus a-hole, 2 a-holes, not 1 a-hole and 1 guy in the right when it comes to a professional setting. Comment number 2, everyone sucks here. A colleague is annoying, so rather than take it to their supervisor, I started swearing at them and sent them an incredibly aggressive email. Both of you are in the wrong here. He's guilty of not being patient, but you're being abusive and hostile over a comparatively petty annoyance. Your response is wildly disproportionate to the offense. If he is sending you multiple emails when you're on D&D, take it to his supervisor and let them deal with it. That is literally their job. Now you've just made yourself look like an aggressive a-hole and potentially created more problems for yourself. It might have been satisfying to blow up at him, but it wasn't helpful and could have very easily bitten you in the rear. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. Quite a few years ago now, in the late 1990s and very early on in my career, I used to work for a company that helped customers of certain retail stores manage their finances. My role was a sort of compliance officer, ensuring that the staff who dealt with customers were following the rules. If they messed it up, it was a big problem and could potentially impact the customer's credit score, result in them defaulting on payments and even end up in court. I took my job pretty seriously. The company was not particularly well run from a management perspective. They had made a lot of money very quickly and had grown from a handful of people in a garage to a 4-story office building in the CBD within the space of a year and a half. There was not a great deal in the way of policy or process framework, so I had to develop a lot of the tools to do the job myself. This involved some programming, a basic system to track what I was doing, linked to the extensive rule set and automate some of the more tedious reporting. It would also track how long I was spending on each task so that I could see about which elements I could streamline. Now, I was quite proud of this system and called it Hendrix, as I'm a massive Jimi Hendrix fan, and it used to play about 5 seconds of the instrumental version of Little Wing when it started up. As I had my own little room, cupboard, this never used to annoy anyone. I can geek out about that type of stuff. At this point, before corporate IT became rather more rigid, I used to write a lot of my own tools. I was the only person who was using Hendrix, and it was a tool just for me. My manager, the archetypal middle manager, decided that because it allowed you to quickly reference which rules apply to which situation, it should be rolled out to all staff. Now, I'd previously considered this, but I argued that I couldn't guarantee that it would not be fit for the task because I had designed it for my own use and I would need to make some changes first. However, he rolled it out anyway without me even getting a chance to tweak it. He got a Team Player of the Week award for introducing a tool to make life easier for frontline staff. In his acceptance speech, this was a big rah-rah thing each week for the company, he thanked his manager. I did not even get a mention, and then 2 weeks later he realized that I'd been recording how long I'd been working on certain tasks within the program. Now, I'd realized fairly quickly that this part of the program was a little too detailed and I didn't really care too much about every single task within each incident. So I just used it to record how long I spent on the entire incident rather than each part of the incident. My manager invited me to a meeting about Hendrix, no details given, and I attended thinking it was gonna be a list of requested features, only to find out that the head of HR was there and I was being given a written warning for falsifying timekeeping, because each customer interaction was a certain length. My manager had decided that this was what I should be recording, not how long I was spending listening to, analyzing, checking and reporting on the interaction. Remember, this is a tool that I had designed for my own use, and it was not being used to calculate how much I was being paid or whether that I was doing enough work during the day or not. There was nothing in place for that at all. I had not made the records public, he had found them in a file on the server that only he and I had access to. Nobody else was supposed to even have this tool. I argued this and was told that it wasn't up to me and I was getting a warning regardless. It got really quite heated and unpleasant, though I got the impression that the head of HR was a little embarrassed about the whole thing. They said, however, that if I wanted to consult a lawyer, I was quite within my rights to do so. It was at this point that I was rather smugly able to state that I could get 2 lawyers there within the hour, as both my parents were practicing and my mother was, in point of fact, an employment lawyer. I realized that this is a bit of a deus ex machine, but it only has partial bearing on the story. Suddenly, there was a completely different attitude from my manager. There was an attempt to roll back the issue and turn it into a suggestion that perhaps I should be a bit more careful with my timekeeping in the future. But I was pretty angry at this point. I pointed out that my software had been rolled out to all staff against my wishes. I was told that this wasn't up to me, as it was company intellectual property. Until I advised them that I had written it in my own time, at home on my own computer, it was plugging into the official government rule set and not the corporate intranet one. I hadn't confirmed it fit for general release at all. I had received special dispensation from IT to install it on a single work computer, which was mine. And I would require them to pay a license fee for anything beyond this. To be fair, this would have been tied up in court for a long time and I've got no idea whether I would have been successful, so in the end I relented. If they wanted to use Hendrix, well, I guess they could. I just made sure that Little Wing would play for 1 second longer on startup for every week the software was in use. Then I quit the following Monday and was working for another company by the Monday after that. 3 or 4 months later, I got a phone call from my former manager asking to come fix the problems with my software. He hung up when I quoted him my consultant fees. I don't know why IT were not able to figure it out. It was just a setting in a text file, not at all hard to find. A friend who remained in the company tells me they continued to use Hendrix for a whole year. The mornings in the call center were apparently horrifying, with Little Wing playing for around a minute every time someone started a new shift. Sometimes it would play on 20 computers at once, few seconds apart, on tiny PC speakers that were unable, due to IT, to mute. And yeah, Ripe Stars, one thing I'm very curious about. There are a lot of these IT/company related stories on r/malicious compliance, and I'm never 100% sure whether you guys like these stories or not. Please let me know in the comments what you think about these, I just call them company malicious compliance stories, because I would love to hear your feedback, and in the end I'm here to please. I don't want to read stuff that you don't care about. And the next one is titled The Male Karen. Years ago, we were stationed overseas, living in a small commune about 45 minutes from the base. This commune was actually considered an offshoot of base housing, and we had armed security at the main gate 24/7. The remaining gates were closed and locked down. I ran a childcare out of my home 5 days a week, 6 AM to 5 PM. If the weather was good, I would take the kids outside to play. I scrounged up some used little Tykes play equipment and other toys along with sidewalk chalk. Our street dead-ended at one of the closed and locked gates, with trees providing shade. This is where I would take the kids if they wanted to color with the chalk, as most kids do. Nothing sinister, dirty, etc. Just stick people, names, rainbows, hopscotch grids, etc. All's good, yeah? But no, once a month we would have town hall meetings where the top E8 of the base would come listen to our concerns and gripes. Or is it grips? I'm not sure. Anyway, Ken and Karen were two of the most sour people in our commune. They had contracted with me to watch their kids, but when I could not take their son outside without their permission, I broke the contract. If the weather was inclement, I could see not going outside. But on a sunny day in the 70s and up, what the hell? If I kept him inside, I had to keep everyone inside. That was not fair, so I broke the contract, as was my right. The very next town hall, Ken got up and ranted about the chalk drawings on the road, how they were a nuisance and distraction to drivers. I was just floored. Ken and his family lived on the main drag, 3 houses in from the main gate, the only one open to any and all visitors. There was no need for him to drive past my house on a side street past his place, as he would run into the closed gate and have to turn around. I'm just sitting there stunned when the E8 asked if this was a through street and were the kids in danger. Then I popped up and explained it was my daycare kids doing the chalk drawings, stated my street was a dead end with a closed gate and the kids did not draw past my drive, that in fact our neighbors would bring their kids out and we would sit and watch them all playing together. Giving them drinks and snacks, and we always picked up our trash, brought in toys and chairs, all in all about a dozen kids or so daily. The E8 looked at Ken and asked him if this was true. Ken would not answer. One of my neighbors stood up and backed up my story, saying no one, absolutely no one on our street had a problem with the chalk drawing. The E8 said we were fine as long as there was an adult watching them. Who cared? In fact, he thought it was a great way to get kids outside in the fresh air. The town hall ended shortly thereafter, so we all went home happy. Except for Ken and Karen. There are more stories to share about them if you want. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.